Some folks think character death is good. Some folks think it's bad. I think the answer is a lot more complicated than that. Hey, my name is James. This morning I was drinking out of my Nicolas Cage mug when the handle broke, spilling tea the temperature of warm urine all over my crotch and all over the couch. The worst part about it? That was my favorite mug. But I'm here today to dork out about dungeons and design on Crumbling Keeps, the Dungeon Dorks. Do you want to start a war online? All it takes is one simple post. Go to your favorite RPG group, subreddit, or whatever, and just say that characters should never die. And then wait. The comments are going to be a shit show. People have strong feelings about character death, oftentimes one way or the other. And if I were to sum up my feelings about it very succinctly, I would say without the ability to fail, success is meaningless. You lose that tension. The dice rolls lose their punch. Nothing feels as important. End a podcast. But no, I have more to say. It's possible that that's not where your tension lays. But if you don't have character death in your game, you should definitely examine yourself. Are you trying to railroad the game and this is just the easiest way to do it? Because one way or the other, actions should have consequences. And if consequences disappear just because of the story you want to tell, why are we even at the table? Just send an email with the results, right? Consequences need to exist. And if it's not death, it does need to be something else. If the players try a task and they fail, it could be that they can't reach their goal. They can't save the king. They can't get across the chasm. They need to find another way around. And if we look at games like Blades in the Dark, they have mechanics like this. Failure a lot of times means you have to find a different route, or things get worse, and that can compound. And it's not necessarily death. I mean, of course, every action you try and attempt in a game shouldn't be succeed or die. Or should it? Maybe I should write that game. Let me let me think about that. But there should be consequences. Now, lately, it does seem, in like the past decade, maybe a little less, that there is a trend toward deadly games. And this trend is certainly older than that because a lot of these games claim an OSR ethos. Because, as we all well know, the OSR is a death cult. Go ahead, tell me I'm wrong. But games like Mork Borg, Old School Essentials, Mothership, life is cheap in these games, and they don't hesitate to let you know that. It's easy to die in Morkborg. There's a million ways to do it. In the cold reaches of space, but there should be consequences. Now, lately, it does seem, in like the past decade, maybe a little less, that there is a trend toward deadly games. And this trend is certainly older than that because a lot of these games claim an OSR ethos. Because, as we all well know, the OSR is a death cult. Go ahead, tell me I'm wrong of the game. If you compare hit point totals for a 20th level character from 5e to 1e, or even common monsters, you're going to see there's a big difference. And that is one of the biggest differences in the game, and one of the reasons combat takes a lot longer. Now, these are all different games in multiple ways. It's not just death. But one of the biggest differences in these games that really ties into how easy it is for a character to die, and I think this is great. I think anyone making a game where death is possible should consider this character creation. How long does it take to make a character, and how complicated is the process? Yeah, Mork Borg, you're likely going to die at some point. Even in character creation, it says you can give your character a name, it won't save them, or something along those lines, right? Death is part of that game. It is written into it both in the fiction and mechanically. But you know what? It takes like 10 minutes to make a Morkborg character if you're being slow about it. Death is cheap. If you're spending hours on a character, you want death to be more expensive. You can spend a long time making a 5e character. And character creation doesn't stop at character creation. It goes on as you play the game and you level up. You're continually creating that character. In 5e and Pathfinder and Aeon, you get choices when you go up in levels or get experience, as it were. And you have to pour that into different abilities. There's a lot of decisions to make, and it takes like kind of a coherent vision to make a character. In Mork Borg, maybe you get some more hit points. Like there's not a lot that happens between levels. So again, death is a lot cheaper. And I'm not here to tell you that one is better than the other. Because if I'm being honest, I like both types of games. I am running an Aeon Continuum Aberrant game right now, and if any of the characters died in that, it would be a huge deal. And I would want that death to be meaningful. But I run a lot of one-shots in these other systems. I'm getting ready to playtest a new Mothership adventure. And you know what? If they die, they die. And that's kind of part of the fun. In those games, you're not identifying with the character as much as you are in these other games, right? Like in Mothership, it's a bad idea to get too attached to your character, to really start to identify with it. It's a little bit more of a method of self-insertion in a way, where you try and make decisions to keep that character alive. But you could ultimately fail, and then you just roll up another character. But that's really part of the fun of those games. Meanwhile, say in that Aeon game I'm running, I want this to be a very long-running campaign with in-depth and complex character arcs. And that's something that we're seeing. And it would be a shame if that was interrupted by death. Now, that doesn't mean that the game doesn't have consequences, because the decisions the players have made in that game have come back to haunt them over and over and over again. One of those decisions did lead to death, but not one of the characters. It was the first time they accidentally killed somebody. And that still comes up in role playing and haunts them to this day. And it has been many, many months since we had that session. So death isn't necessarily the important thing, but consequences are. If you have a very operatic, story-driven game, maybe you don't want a lot of death. But if the game's more about exploration, cleverness, self-insertion, and less about the character, maybe it's more about the game or the game world itself, death happens, and that's okay. Maybe there's death saves in a game, and it takes longer to die. Maybe it's zero and done. This should be an intentional choice, especially based on the things I just talked about, right? If it's zero and done, I don't know that I want to spend 2 hours making my next character for the game. that kind of sucks. But even if we do stick with the kind of old school games, where especially nowadays people really champion like death as a given, right? Death is important to the game. But even from early on in these games, we were looking for ways not to die. Resurrection is not a new spell. There's been house rules since nearly the beginning. Even when I started to play back in second edition, the house rule at the table was you have to get to negative 10 hit points to die, and you will lose one each round after you're at zero. And a character can stabilize you. Sounds kind of familiar, right? And even in games where that wasn't done, so many people just made a character that was the same as their last character. Hey, it's my long lost brother. It's fine. Can they have my old character's possessions? So as you can see, it's nuanced. I do think death in RPGs is important, and I think it should be a conscious decision of how much of it we want in our games, be that our individual campaigns or the games we are writing. And I hope it's something that you think about. And if you don't have death, consider what your other consequences are going to be. Because if I hear about a game that doesn't have death in it, I do have a knee-jerk reaction of thinking that it probably doesn't have other meaningful consequences either. That's not definitely true, but I bet it is more times than not. And if you're questioning how much death you want in your game, I'll leave you with this. Nothing makes you feel more alive than escaping death. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you have any questions about anything I talked about here today or on any past episodes of Dungeon Dorks, go to crumblingkeep.com/question and ask away, or just check the link in the show notes.